Welcome back to another edition of Celtics Roundtable here on the Boston Celtics news feed. Matt Ignon once again here with Sam Sheehan. Once again, we're joined by Cole Zwicker of the Stepien. The Celtics select Robert Williams with the 27th pick, athletic big man out of Texas A&M. Cole, what do you think? Why do you think the Celtics selected Robert Williams? What do they hope that he can bring over the next few years?
Well, I think philosophically, they selected him because he was the best player on the board by a pretty considerable margin. This is a lottery-level talent. At his peak, he's bringing value akin to maybe a Clint Capella, someone who can really switch on the perimeter, has some quick twitch in his defensive stance, also has the length. I mean, he has 7'5" wingspan, so that's something I think it's underrated with a lot of perimeter big defenders is they don't have the length. Like a Marvin Bagley has the agility, but he doesn't have that reach. So Williams brings that, and offensively, dynamic rim runner in transition can really change ends of the floor, can operate a little bit in pick and roll. Of course, as the dive man, he probably has the biggest catch radius of any big in the class as far as that goes, but he can also pass a little bit on short rolls. I think that's his most underrated skill, and that might be something that popped for the Celtics was some of his reads are pretty good.
Yeah, and just getting that sort of, those sort of passing instincts, the Celtics do sort of work, paint touches and passing out. How is he passing out to perimeter shooters necessarily? I've seen some of the stuff where he's kind of doing drop offs and dumps. Does he have that corner outlet in him yet to 3-point shooters, or was that not really the game at A&M for them?
He did flash a couple skip pass reads. I think that's in his game. He's very unselfish, and he's not an anticipatory passer. He's not Wendell Carter, but he's probably the second best in this class at making those kinds of passes. But his role, again, was very different at Texas A&M, playing the forward there, just kind of out of position a lot of the time. So I'm not sure how much of the translatability is there as far as projectability with his role. You're not going to post him up. He's not dynamic there at all. He's more of just a straight lob catch threat, more of a dive guy, not a lot of high skill level as a ball handler. And if he could really shoot, he would never have been on the board at 27 if he could shoot. And we kind of found out that he couldn't in his sophomore year just because, the form isn't there. And then the free throw percentage, I think it's sub 50%. So not optimistic there. But if they can get him to shoot, because he has some kind of touch, I mean, that's a grand larceny steal.
Cool. You had him 12th on your board. Do you think that he can provide minutes in his first year, second year? I mean, how long do we have to go before he can be a serviceable rotation player in your mind?
I think the key is he drifts a lot off the ball defensively. That was kind of his stigma, is he's not always engaged, especially when he's not involved in the primary action. But we know if you're not engaged defensively, you're not playing for Brad Stevens. He just won't play you. I think that's why the situation is so good, because they can really tap into that. If you can motivate him, get him to change ends of the floor, make rotations at a high level. He's not the most cerebral defensive player, but when the play is in front of him, he's really dynamic.
Yeah, so he's got to pretty cleanly project as a 5 at the next level, right? Unless he's sort of next to some sort of stretch big. Do you think the Celtics might play around a little bit with sort of having him see some minutes with Horford, where Horford is anchoring the defense, but also sort of stretching on the offensive end of the floor to sort of let Williams take some of those dive minutes, but then also sort of allow him to be that weak side shot blocker on the defense? Is that a role that projects better for him versus necessarily last line of defense, rim protector with the responsibilities of quarterbacking?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think he's capable there because he has the feet to kind of track fours a little bit, and I like him in space. So that's where the dynamic is aided, because Horford, of course, on the offensive end can space the floor, and it makes it doable as far as a spacing standpoint overall. I think his best quality is probably going to be 1-5 pick and roll switch settings when this plays in front. I think he can keep guards in front. He can contest shots. I worry a little bit about, like you said, the quarterbacking aspect when he's on the dunker position, weak side, making those rotations in a timely manner. But if he can pick that up, I mean, he can definitely cover the ground. There's no shortage of athleticism here.
Hey, today's episode is brought to you by Hims, the brand new wellness brand for men. It's your one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, and sexual wellness for men. The best part is about Hims is that they connect you with real doctors to treat your hair loss with actual medical-grade solutions. We are talking about prescription solutions here, backed by science. Just go to 4hims.com right now. Our listeners get a special trial month of Hims for just $5 today while supplies last. Just go to 4hims.com/Celtics. That's 4hims.com/Celtics. You mentioned here that this is a little bit of an upside pick for the Celtics here. We brought up names like DeAndre Jordan and Clint Capella. How do you like those comps for Robert Williams? Do you think that he's got that potential upside
Yeah, I think he profiles a little bit more like Capella just because he's not as girthy as DeAndre. DeAndre is huge as far as being a rebounding presence. Capella's a good rebounder, but it's mostly because of his leaping ability, his length, and I think Robert Williams is the same way. He kind of wins with his high pointing the basketball, not a very good box out guy. The one thing I will say about him is he really needs to improve as a screener. He hates contact on screens, and that's a common trait you see of a lot of bigs in this class. They just don't set physical screens, which is paramount for a guy who's going to be doing that and then diving to the rim, creating that separation. So, yeah, for me, he's more Capella as far as just overall build, agility. Maybe he's not quite as quick twitch, but it's damn close. Like, he's one of the closest guys I've seen profile to a player like that.
Cole, I did have a question about, we talked a little bit about the shooting. Do you think that there's like, do you think that there's any chance that he could sort of be like a high volume like finisher, or is he like just going to be a dunker? He's not an incredibly skilled guy like under the rim as far as like backing in or post moves or anything like that?
Correct. Yeah, he's more of a play finisher type.
Okay.
Maybe he's flashed the ability to shoot mid-range shots, but I think that's the tricky thing about evaluating guys at college is most guys will flash everything, but can they do it consistently, right? Because they're going to have to do that at the NBA level. So for me right now, he's a play finisher only.
If he carves out a role on the Celtics, what do you think he's improved at enough to get to that standard?
I think it's the passing, honestly. That's his one thing that's his one skill that's not just pure athleticism based, is that ability to make a short roll read. That's going to help a lot with a guy like Kyrie Irving. If teams trap him and Robert Williams is on the floor, he can make a short roll read, I think, in time. He's already shown proclivity there. But overall, I just think his one skill that's going to be so valuable to the Celtics is just switching everything. Because that's what the Celtics already like to do. They switch. They have all the similarly sized players. You can put Robert Williams at the 5. He can switch on to 1 potentially. That's his main allure for me, is the switchability along with the rim protection when the play's in front. I thought that from that standpoint, you're not going to do better from a best player available who can potentially be a starter component than you can do with a Robert Williams type.
Yeah, anything else, Sam?
No, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. We're gonna have a thick jacked team this year, so I'm pretty excited about that. Lot of moves. I'm here for Bob Williams from Sport. And I'm excited. I'm excited. I think it was. I really don't think it could have gone better for the Celtics in that you stay put. You don't give up any future assets. You get Robert Williams, and then also the Kings don't take Luka Doncic, which really helps that Kings pick. I feel like
this podcast is just one giant heat check every time I come on here. It's fantastic. I love it.
Well, we love having you on here, Cole. And
yes,
we want to thank you. Like, we're literally recording this like right after the draft, and Cole just finished a 4.5-hour live show. So
absolute Iron Man.
Yes.
Thanks for having me, guys. I always appreciate talking to you.
That was Cole Zwicker, along with Sam Sheehan. I'm Matt Ignall. We'll be back next week talking, free agency. We're going to do a podcast for every player who we at least think has a chance at least of being on the Celtics next year. So we want to thank you all for tuning in. Give us a follow on Twitter at CLNS Roundtable. Give Cole Zwicker a follow. That's at Cole Zwicker. And we'll see you next week.